Okay, hey, we're into another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another great, affordable update for you guys from the brand Baltany. They were founded back in 2010. Their mission is pretty simple. They redesign classic, iconic timepieces using the latest watchmaking technology. Their goal is to create the most historically accurate homages ever made while maintaining the spirit of the original iconic timepieces along with their modern interpretations. This falls within the classic field watch space. Some key characteristics and design. When you're looking for a classic field watch, of course you're going to want that modest kind of vintage style size. You're going to want full numerals. You're going to see typically a 12 and 24 hour scale or a 12-hour 60-minute scale on either kind of a black or cream dial. This definitely fits within that. This is their military field watch S2049 in the black dial option. And a lot of you are probably thinking, hey, that looks awfully a lot like the Hamilton Khaki field automatic. And I will say, yeah, I mean, it does. Fortunately for Baltany, the field watch, it although very popularized and brought into the mainstream by Hamilton and other folks, Ben Russ, to name a few. It's not like anybody necessarily. This was like it was a spec watch. It was military spec, right? So there's a lot of watches that will have a similar look to them. I will say that it's very clear Baltany is a very honest in that they do make homages, and this is definitely an homage to a basic field watch, which I would say probably resonates most closely to the Hamilton Khaki. But there are some differences and some pretty surprising ones, guys. I will say there are places where Baltany matches the Hamilton, and there's places where it surpasses the Hamilton, which is crazy because this only costs $159 direct. That's like the full list price. So I'm sure you could even get deals for this to get it even cheaper. So pretty wild. But with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, some of you are probably already noticing something that you like more than on a Hamilton. The strap is actually pretty nice. Like, check it out. It even has kind of the vintage stitch there. Very clean. Hey, genuine leather. Baltany. All metal steel there, all brushed. A nice affair. And some of you are probably noticing that this dial is very similar. I will say the texturing is not as defined in terms of the dial that you would find comparatively to the Hamilton that shares a very similar look. But in terms of the size, I think they really hit a sweet spot. 39 millimeter diameter, 12.1 millimeters thick, which is a little bit on the thicker side, but it does do a nice job of kind of compartmentalizing some of that weight. Of course, it does have a nice curve here, as well as, of course, being sandwiched in between, making a clear line of thin mid case sandwiched by a kind of a symmetrical case back and then fixed bezel there. And then you add in this crown, which is a screw down crown. Yes, you hear that, Hamilton? We got a screw down crown over here. So this helps secure your 100 meters of water resistance. And you're also getting a sapphire double domed with an inner AR coating. Yes, an AR coating on the sapphire. And of course, if I do shine it directly on the studio lights, you're going to see that, hey, there's really no AR coating that can just make that not appear. But I will say you could probably notice that this has a lot less glare than you would have on a very similar look to the Hamilton Khaki. So those things right there are things that we've really been asking for a long time. This is insane pricing, guys. This is it's a renaissance for cheap, affordable watches that deliver very highly on specs. And, of course, will borrow also very highly on aesthetic. But I will say this was executed really well. I mean, in terms of the spacing, the dial balance, the integration of the date with a black date disc there. They did a good job, guys. Like, it's impressive. Of course, this is a fixed bezel. You know, it's all brushed. There's not a lot of crazy transitions or anything like that. You do have a screw down crown. It is not signed though, which, hey, I mean, what would they put on it? A B? Like, I think it kind of looks cool as it is. The case back, very plain Jane, guys. You're not going to get a display or anything like that, but that also does help keep this a bit thinner because the movement inside is, you know, a little bit on the thicker side. It's the Seiko Instruments NH35, which is a very, you know, popular movement within micro brands. 41-hour power reserve, 3 hertz, 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate, which works out there. And, you know, it's a very solid piece. It makes you not feel bad about putting this on a NATO strap because there's nothing to look at. So it's not like it's covering up a nice window of the movement. So that is, I mean, for me, that's kind of a benefit that they did that. And you'd be surprised in how many of my videos people are asking about, hey, can I put on a solid case back to make it thinner, you know, to thin things out. So, hey, for those of you that really want to worry about that, hey, here's a brand that is absolutely doing that and considering your same thoughts. Now, in terms of the dial, matte black with this nice brushed section. As you can see, the center is a bit of a sunray finish, and then you have the outer track where the hours are, and then it's more of like a radial, which is very cool, and again, very reminiscent to what you would see from a Hamilton, although this one again is you know, a bit of a more subdued texturing. It's not quite as 3D, and some of you might actually like that. You might like that this gives you a little bit of the same visual play while not actually having all of the extra, you know, kind of textures that might, you know, combat some of the legibility. So you're also going to have a polished handset, which is loomed, as you guys can see. Not the seconds hand though. Pretty cool little seconds hand there. I dig the counterbalance, you know, with the little hole there on that side. I think that looks nice and fun. Red tip. Hey, helps with legibility in daylight. And then BGW9, so Superluminova. BGW9, guys, this is gonna glow blue, very clean, appear very white during the day, and then when it's dark, it's gonna have nice longevity to that glow. So again, they're doing things that's like, oh, that is smart. Baltany, they're doing things that we like and things that we wish we had. Now they're putting it in this. So getting to this strap, so it is of course 20 millimeters up here. It has a 2 millimeter taper down to about 18 millimeters there at that satin brushed pin buckle. So very cool, guys. There's not too much to it. So let's actually just get this on the wrist and see how it wears. All right, guys, it's not surprising how wearable and versatile this piece is. My gosh, look at that. Of course, if I get it a bit too close to the camera lens, it's going to make it look a bit larger than it actually is. There's going to be a bit of lens distortion there, but I do want you to get a detailed look. So what I'll do is I'll keep my wrist nice and low and then just tighten up the frame here so you guys can get still a detailed look, but with just a bit of a truer aspect ratio in terms of how this might lay on your own wrist. And although I do have a larger 7.5 inch wrist, it's not like I have a super flat and wide wrist. It's actually quite round. So I am, of course, quite cognizant of lug to lug as well. And it's not like I just have this wide canvas that makes any watch seem like it fits really well. I will say this is very nicely centered on my wrist. So check that out and look at that as it lays. Some of you might be thinking, you know, 12.1 is just too thick. I will say it wears the 12.1 really well. Check that out. Could it use more tricks? Sure. Could it have a bunch of undercuts and, you know, more compartmentalization in terms of each kind of line weight and this 3-piece sandwich of a setup? Sure, they could. Is it absolutely necessary? No, I think this looks great. It looks proportional. This doesn't look like a tall watch to me. This doesn't look like some chronograph, you know, full of mechanical parts. It looks pretty well balanced and, you know, generally quite versatile. And it just has a certain air of quality about it that I'm very impressed by for such an inexpensive watch. I don't want to call it cheap because I don't want to imply any of the negative connotations that come with something being like this is not a cheap watch. It is just extremely affordable with a high value. No, it is not an original, which, hey, if you what you want is a Hamilton Khaki field watch, then you should have one. But if you just want a field watch, then this is something to consider as a really solid alternative. So with all that, let's actually get it off the wrist, set up for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, check that out, guys. BGW9 pumping away brightly, and it's not just a couple of loom plops. We're getting loomed numerals here, guys. It looks good. Yes, it looks very, very good. But one thing I always like to do, of course, is throw in just a little bit of what I like to call low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or maybe just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, to maybe even include a bit of harsh lighting that typically could expose any types of production defects. But all you're going to see here is probably a little bit of smudging from my fingerprints. Check that out. You can see the dial come a bit more to life. Again, it is very subtle and subdued in terms of that pattern. Here we go. This might help a little bit. You can see almost has a bit of a coffee texture to it when you get enough light on it. And of course, there's some fingerprints on there, but nothing too crazy. And if we even get into those, kind of harsher lighting situations, I'm not really seeing anything at fault there. It all looks very clean and pretty finely applied. Again, more of an industrial finish. This isn't some hand-worked piece. I'm not trying to overhype any of this, but this is a completely, good field watch. Like, this is what you should expect. And I will say that, they do a great job. And there's a lot of fashion brands that have come out over the years with field watches on NATOs, and they'll put whatever crappy, Seagull or Miyota lower, tier movement on there and sell it for a decent amount of money, a lot more than this, sometimes double, triple this. And it's just a straight up, fashion accessory without good specs, with just kind of a generic universal look. And it's cool to see a brand come around and really do this design some respect. Like they really do. They didn't just try to do a one-for-one reassimilation. They said, hey, let's outdo it. Let's add a screw down crown. Let's get a little bit of AR coating on this sapphire crystal. So I can't be too mad, honestly. Although this is a very, this feels very homage-y, but it's within that space like Flieger watches, right? Field watches, Fliegers, they just, because of the nature of the style of watch, there are so many that are going to have similar character traits that are going to be way more universal than something, let's say, that you would say if you were, looking at an homage dive watch, or an homage chronograph watch, where there's very specific design elements that feel very copied. Here, it just feels like you took the same ingredients and you just mixed it up in a slightly different way, right? Sometimes it might just be, hey, the name's different. I will say that, that the Hamilton probably is going to be a little bit nicer finished. It's not crazy. My Murph 38, it's not like it's some luxury level compared to this. It's just, I'd say maybe a tad sharper here and there. And I mean that more of an execution standpoint, not like to the touch sharper. But yeah, this one just really impresses me, especially for the price point, guys. So, I mean, I guess if I jumped into my closing thoughts on the wrist, classic proportions, fit almost any situation, super versatile layout. I mean, just as you guys know. In terms of model variants, it's also available in a blue sunray dial, which I almost asked for. Baltany did reach out and they offered this, just so you guys know. They sent this in to the channel for me to share with you guys. They don't have any type of editorial input or anything like that. It doesn't really matter how I get these watches on the channel, whether I purchase them directly, trade for them, have them in as a loaner, whatever it may be, whether they're gifted to the channel, and I don't have to send them back or anything like that. You know, my opinion is going to be my opinion, and I'm not swayed by that. I'm not reading somebody else's script or hitting any of their points that they want. And if I was, you would see a little sponsored thing pop up, and you know, I'd say, hey, this segment brought to you by X, X, and X. So I will say that, yeah, this thing is pretty impressive. Again, it's not like, hey, this is the luxurious version. It's not, but it is a smart variation on a really well-loved watch. So comparable models, this compares very well against the $695 Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic 38 millimeter. Sure, you lose out on the extra power reserve, but you gain the additional security of a screw-down crown, plus a movement that can easily be regulated and adjusted by your local watchmaker versus needing specific tools for the Powermatic 80 to service. So, you know, also, I guess somewhat ironically tied to the Hamilton brand, the classic field watch aesthetic isn't truly owned by any one particular brand versus another. It's not. I mean, they're just, Hamilton's just kind of known for it. And it's similar, I guess you could say, to dive watches, where people kind of think, you know, Rolex Submariner, and there's going to be certain traits that are quite universal at this point. Rotating dive time bezel, right? Like a very symmetrical dial, legible, readable. So there's only so many different ways you can remix something that has 12 hours and 3 hands on it, right? And a crown. It's got to be somewhere. So you know, I'll say I'll cut Baltany a bit of a break on this one, you know, in terms of the fact that they just made a really smart field watch that is quite versatile, that could be worn every day. So for me, guys, bottom line, at just $159, guys, this classy and well executed little military inspired piece just offers a lot of value for the money. It just does. And it is one of those bang per buck darlings that if when people ask for those types of questions, that's my type of answer is, you know, if you're very spec heavy and spec conscious and value oriented, this is the type of watch I think you can't go wrong with. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.